was a scammer, I think it would be known by now.
There's been a recent situation where they said that your accounts were frozen.
And what's interesting about that is Donald Trump just came out the other day, and I'm no fan of his, where he said that he's going to issue an executive order against the banking. I didn't know that this was a big deal in America, but banks are debanking people who they don't like.
People say that that came at a coincidental timing when
they tried to
auction
our
because of
buildings behind our back.
Yeah. What is your response to people saying that that's coincidence?
What's coincidence?
For example, they're trying to say that you created that story of account being frozen so that you can get more money from people to then pay off that.
Well, we have the paperwork from the bank telling us that they will no longer offer us their services. That's on paper. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that that was done on purpose. I think that whole thing was a conspiracy to strip us of our buildings. You wait all this time to try to sell our buildings for an old bill, and you do it as soon as the accounts are frozen, and don't tell us nothing.
People say the one thing that they use to try and delegitimize Dr. Umar Johnson is the fact that it's taken over 10 years.
We raised money for 5 years, and I have no problem with that. It took us 5 years to get to school. I have no problem with that. Should it have taken as long? No. We went through a lot with our contractors. We were scammed. We were ripped off. We were robbed.
People say that when you talk about things needing to get done, it's always another thing. Like, tomorrow's the day that never comes. That's what people say, right?
Things take time. Things always have to be re-repaired because you miss things in the initial repair. So I don't care.
Do you have a date that you think is actually...
I'm not giving no more date because every time I gave a date, we never met the date. And the reason we never met the date is I was depending on the contractor. And so when they betrayed the date, we had to betray the date.
I see that. He's building a school in Nigeria.
Okay. I know he is.
And
I'm ready.
During that time, everybody was attacking him, telling him, scammers, he's a scammer, he's a scammer, he's a scammer. To dispel the haters, he gave full financial transparency and told everything that was going on. Can you give full financial transparency?
I can, but I wouldn't.
Okay, why not?
Because the only people we are accountable to are our donors.
How long do you think this shutdown will last?
More than 35 days.
Go trade.
We could pick up with a London, Rome connect, that's real. Them 3 city states that don't answer to nobody, right. That's and that had the best building that we found. We should have been in Detroit, but once the archdiocese found out who I was, they wouldn't sell me none of the schools. I knew we was in Detroit. Me and my mother was preparing to move to Detroit. I said, Mom, we going to Detroit, we out. It's gonna be cold. She said, I don't care, let's go. And then the Jewish realtor for the archdiocese, and I thought that was interesting, that the archdiocese had a, because if you understand that history, but he said they want to see your curriculum. I said, we buying the school cash money, and we ran into situations where sometimes if I don't take the plumber, the electrician say I can't take the job. You feel me? Because that's my man. Right. So since you're not taking him, I can't do it. I'm like, damn, what that got to do with you? I need this, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of that where I like the electrician, don't like the plumber. I like the HVAC guy, don't like the electrician. So, you know, it's networks, you know, and you're dealing with a really small city and you are outsider coming from Philly. I had to deal with some of that too, you know what I mean? Because even though I get a lot of love in Wilmington and a lot of love across Delaware, you still got them people say, we don't need him here, you know what I mean? We don't need no big city dude coming down here. We can handle our own business. But I'm not here for you, I'm here for the kids, you know what I mean? Because people say, why did you choose Wilmington? And I like Wilmington, I love the energy there, I really do. But people say, why did you choose Wilmington? I didn't choose Wilmington. I chose the school that was in Wilmington. In other words, we wasn't shopping for cities, we shopping for building. And that had the best building that we found. We should have been in Detroit, but once the archdiocese found out who I was, they wouldn't sell me none of the schools. I knew. So. And he also told me that the Vatican is the second largest.
All right, Shalom, this is Gamal Yalo, Great Millstone, Atlanta. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the Akim, pushing out this truth and sincerity. All right, this is a quick lesson, and this is going to be entitled Dr. Umar Johnson and his school and his so-called school is proof that the curses are on Jake. All right, and you know, so these are a couple interviews. The Spirit has this guy's name come up last week, you know, and so it just kind of had led me to kind of dig into what's been going on, you know, with his school that has taken over 10 years to build. All right, and it you know, it sparked me to dig into it further, and you know, come to find out, you know, dude has been catching hell trying to get his school, you know, started, you know, get it off the ground. And you know, he could very well be lying. You know, a lot of people are calling him a scammer. They're calling him, you know, they're basically saying he's a grifter. You know, he's basically, you know, asking for donations and lying. But according to his stories or reasons or excuses, he's basically claiming that, you know, he hasn't been able to find the right contractors. He basically talked about the city was blocking him from trying to do certain things. He said that, you know, the permits, and he didn't mention a lot of these things in the video that I just took. But you know, when you watch those interviews, if you have time, you know, those are some of the things that he mentioned and brought up. You know, he's basically saying that you know, the city was trying to block him from you know, setting it up. He said that, you know, they put a lot of stipulations in place. They had him pay a bunch of taxes, empty building taxes, which is, you know, that's fucked up. You know, and also, you know, not only that, but, you know, he said that you know, what else? You know, he wound up owing a whole bunch of money, and he said that the contractors, you know, they kind of fucked him over. He was using Jake contractors, and he wound up having to use Esau contractors, you know, eventually, because Jake was, you know, not doing the job properly, which that sounds like Jake. You know, that's we've all seen examples of that. You know, you go to Jake you try to use Jake businesses and they disappoint you, you know. And what else? You know, just different things, man. Different things, you know, different hurdles that he's had to jump through. Now, this is all the curses. You know, this is a part of why, you know, the curses is the reason why it's harder for Jake to do certain things here in America, because we're oppressed. All right. So this validates, and it's funny because this guy is a Pan-Africanist. You know, he's on the Black African conscious tip, you know, but he is he's under the curses. See, if Jake would give ear to the things that we say and comprehend the things that we say, it would all make sense. You know, it would all, you know, basically connect as to why this guy hasn't been able to do what he needs to do, you know. But that's exactly why. It's because, you know, he hasn't been able to do what he needs to do because, you know, he's under the curses. Now, this is Deuteronomy 28:48. It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee." Yeah, because we're going into the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And basically, when you read verses 1 to 14, it goes into the blessings that would befall Israel in the event that they obey the Lord. But when you read 15 on down to the end of the chapter, all right, it goes into the curses of that will befall Israel. All right. And so, you know, it says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies." So you're serving your enemies, everything that you do. It says in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. All right, yeah. So you want a building, you want to start a school, you want to start, so-called black empowerment school where you can build up, well, you got to go through Esau. You got to get permits. That's what he talked about as well, having to get permits and licenses. And, you can't just own anything outright. You got to get permission. He said he had to go through different cities and different, he had to, what he said, he got Detroit, the city of Detroit denied him, and, it was limited as to where he could build a school, because, and then when he finally found a school, the city, now he's having a battle. He's having a battle with the city, trying to get them to grant, waive the vacant building tax fees and all these different things. All right. So you're still at the mercy of Esau, no matter what you try to do, no matter what you try to build, you're still at the mercy and permission of Esau. You still have to go to him as the authority. All right. Which that's, like I said, that's what we read. You have to go to him for the want of all things. There's another one I'm looking for where it says, this is kind of it. Verse 39, thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shall neither drink of the wine nor gather grapes, for the worms shall eat them. And there's another one, I think, where it says, thou shalt build and another man shall... the fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed alway. All right. Yeah. So you're going to be through. No matter what you do here in America, you're going to be through. All right. It's going to be a battle for you. Esau, he goes and establishes these schools like this, like it's nothing, because he has the money. He doesn't have to go get donations. He could just go to his Edomite peers or whoever, or go to the city, and it's a cakewalk for him to establish certain schools and establish things, But you as a Jake, all right, they're gonna make it 2-3 times as hard because, that's just what it is. You just a nigga, Especially if you're trying to teach, outside the curriculum that they want you to teach. All right, which that's what Dr. Umar is trying to do. And obviously he's trying to teach madness. He's trying to teach black empowerment, which we're not black people, so he's not teaching the truth. All right, but like I said, going to say that he is still under the curses. And this is a well-influential so-called black man. He's one of the leaders. He is one of the leaders of the so-called black people here in America. He has a pretty big following, and he has so much so that, people are going to him for interviews. These are big platforms that he's gone on, to speak about his about his school and his journey and things of that nature. This Isaiah 9:16, for the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Yeah, so this guy, Dr. Umar, he's causing our people to err, okay, because he's not teaching you that you're Israelite, although he's going through the curses, although he has evidence that the so-called white man is the devil. All right, he's not going to point you to the Bible and say, oh yeah, well here's why. Based off of my experiences, I'm under the curses. This is why this is happening. And Esau is a so-called white man. He's a devil, and he's been the one blocking, us from building the school. But he's not going to teach you that. He's going to teach you black consciousness, and in his school, he's going to teach black empowerment and all these different things. But it's not going to lead you to anything. It's not going to lead you to any salvation or anything. It's going to lead you really down the path of darkness, all right, and disappointment. Because if you follow this guy's steps, you ain't going to be able to build shit. and they that are led of them are destroyed. So he's destroyed. All right. His mindset is destroyed. He's going to lead you, like I said, down a path of just, being asleep. Okay. Being an African-American, being a Pan-Africanist. All right. That's what he's going to lead you down the path. All right. He's not going to lead you down the path of righteousness and how to live and how to conduct yourself, how to, to keep the laws, to go into the scriptures, to go into the history, to go into the ways of YAHAWASHI. All right. He's not going to teach you that. All right. Let's see. Let's get this. Because I want to get, what is it? Oh, yeah. This is Acts 5:38, and it says, "And now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught." All right. And our counsel, all right, through the apostles and elders, our building, number one, is spiritual. All right. This is a spiritual house. We're building the house of David. All right. You see how his building that he's trying to build is carnal and it's falling apart. He can't even establish it. All right. Because we're in captivity. That's that Micah 2:10. It says, behold, this is not your rest. Arise and depart, for behold, this is not your rest. It is polluted. It shall surely destroy you. And I'm not going to get it because I quoted it, but it's polluted. It's going to destroy you. And this is not our rest. We weren't sent here in America to build schools and to establish, a black, establish Wakanda and shit like that, and try to, build a black economy and build, our own system and ecosystem within America. Because all you're going to do is every time you're going to fall flat on your face. Esau is not going to let you he's not going to let you do what you're trying to do. And you seeing it firsthand. It's taking you more than 10 years. And it hasn't occurred to him yet that, damn, you know what? This ain't going to work. Because he's having to go through Esau, the devil. All right. That's why he, time and time again, every time he tries to establish it, he falls on his face. It doesn't work. All right. But it says, for if this counsel of this work, or if this work be of men, it will come to naught. And that's why our building that we're building through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI Yahushai, start with our elders and apostles, leading the way. It's a spiritual building. It's not coming to naught. It's growing, as a matter of fact. All right. And we're not trying to establish a carnal building. We're trying to we are establishing a spiritual building. That's why Esau can't take it down. The most Esau can do is just try to, do petty shit like taking brothers' pages down, taking brothers' pages down, and Satan will do spiritual attacks on brothers and stuff like that, because this is spiritual warfare, as Ephesians 6:12. It's not a carnal. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. All right, so this is a spiritual thing.